Hey guys, so we know that you bought this program because of the awareness and attention that we're bringing to the preservation, at least in the ways that you can control, of your abdominal wall and pelvic floor throughout the course of your pregnancy, leading into your postpartum recovery chapter. Now, there's been a huge shift in awareness and a fear, or there's still some people that are completely oblivious to the changes that happen to a woman's body during this time. We think baby safety and you go to the doctor and they just tell you, like, keep doing what you've always done. Just listen to your body. And when you talk to them about exercise, it's either don't lift over 15 pounds or carry on. If you were doing it before, keep doing it now. And we obviously know, and you know because you bought this program, that there's a little bit more to it than that. But the X's and O's, the tactics of it, is where we want to kind of dial in a message in this video so that you actually understand how to listen to your body, what you're looking for, and the awareness that you need to make. Now, Heather did a great job in the videos of explaining different cues and strategies for you to implement into the movement. So if you're confused about a movement and what do I do here, just reference the videos that she made. That's a really good first point of context. So when we're talking about core and pelvic health considerations, a lot of attention is about diastasis recti. And there's a lot of messaging out there that says you can prevent it, or it's the worst thing ever and just requires surgery in order to address it in the postpartum chapter. And we want to wave all the flags and say that's not exactly how this works. So diastasis is a very, very normal part of pregnancy. Everyone will have a diastasis towards the end of their pregnancy. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon of a woman's body to carry a baby throughout 9 months and expand. And so that separation of the left and right sides of the rectus here, that's made of connective tissue here, and that's the linea alba. The linea alba is what stretches to expand during pregnancy. And so during this time, we're looking at a pregnant belly here. If I'm constantly have a strategy where I'm really rung up here, that's a lot of pressure going out into my abdomen. And if I'm then holding my breath, that's a lot of pressure out into my abdomen. Well, those two things are something that athletes like Heather and I it's ingrained, right? We've been told to just hold our breath for everything. We've been told to be really kind of extreme in our movement patterns and almost an exaggeration of that. And so while it's not just about making those little shifts, it's really it's bringing awareness to what our tendencies are. And then how can we do something different, especially during a time where there's extra stress being loaded here on the front part of our core, but also down below our pelvic floor. So there's a baby that is constantly providing shifts and changes in pressure to your abdominal wall and also your pelvic floor during this chapter. How you train and the tendencies that you have during just everyday life, but also the demands that you're putting on that system when training have to be accounted for when really dialing in strategy. So Heather's going to help me demonstrate some things that we need to be aware of, because again, it's not just about diastasis. Honestly, I wish that people were way more concerned about their pelvic floor than they are about their abs, because I think the fear, I don't know if you agree, but I feel like the fear is so rooted in, I don't want my abs to change or look different, but they're going to change. Things are going to look different. But your pelvic floor, there's a lot of different unique considerations. We cannot control everything. This program is not something that's going to say, if you do this and you follow this set and these reps and this exercise, then you're going to prevent all the things. That's not what this is. We don't have control of that. Nobody does. There's way too many variables and circumstances that influence a woman's ever-changing core and abdominal wall. What we can do is give you tools of awareness, education, and the support needed to navigate your body now and your body 15 years from now.
Yeah, we want you exercising in 9 months after your baby's born, through your pregnancy, and when you're a grandma as well. These are all important chapters that are coming, and we need you, feeling healthy and good throughout all of those chapters.
Right. So we talked a little bit about looking at a diastasis, where if we're thinking about our air and our position influencing how much stress and demand is on our midline, it's the same conversation for how much stress is going on and being displaced down into the pelvic floor. So it's bringing awareness to, are you somebody who pressures out, which would look like this, and you can see my breasts and my rib cage kind of rise. I'm really core dominant here. A lot of other things that we see with some people, they have athletic tendencies or just generic lifestyle tendencies is when they take a breath, they'll kind of set down and they pressure down towards their pelvic floor. Now, neither of these are bad things. They're just things, and we can create awareness around it so that maybe we can take and counter some of that extra additional stress on the pelvic floor and abdominal wall and control the things that we can as it relates to the exercise that we're doing. So Heather, she's going to demonstrate a couple movements where we can shift her position and also her breath around to just maybe make some changes that might help counter where the pressure's going, if the pressure's going here, if it's going below. So Heather, go ahead and do a squat, maybe back up a little bit.
From the side or from the front?
I think it can be, let's go side.
Okay, so from here?
Yeah, so at first I'm just gonna watch her squat. And a lot of times we see, you're like really drag your butt forward. A lot of times we see this, like where it's like a really hard finish at the top, where she really tucks her hips under. And in that position, I'm not so concerned that it's a bad position. I'm thinking about how much repeated stress is going down her midline. And also, is that a position where her pelvic floor feels good? And there's so many changes throughout the course of pregnancy that might start to be hard on the pelvic floor to be constantly tucked under in that position. It's not a guarantee, but it's something that we know we can adjust. If you're somebody who's always coming forward like this, bring it to more of a neutral. If you're somebody who has a closed hip range of motion, really work on opening that. So we're finding a way to better balance the system without it being extreme, without thrusting all the way forward, again, into the linea alba, tucking our butt, changing where the pelvic floor sits, tucked under, tucked forward, things like that.
And just coming out of my last pregnancy here, I can tell you that as you get into that third trimester, it starts to feel really common to naturally squeeze when you come to the top of the deadlift and when you come to the top of the squat. The way that the center of gravity is shifted so much on your body that even me knowing everything that I know, I caught myself doing this all the time, coming out of the squat kind of here. So instead of here, more neutral.
And all we're doing is just trying to influence how pressure is distributed. Another way we can do that is just by how she's breathing, because intra-abdominal pressure is created through our breath. So if I inhale, that's an increase. If I exhale, that distributes it differently. So that's what we want to do. We don't want to necessarily increase or decrease. We just want to better coordinate the system in relationship to what movements those athlete is trying to do. So something that you guys can start with, I think is a really foundational way to gauge how you're feeling, is to exhale through the full range of motion. You might feel like that's really slow, but I think it's a great place to start. So Heather, if she's gonna demonstrate a squat again, she's going to just take a nice wide inhale at the top, and then exhale, squat all the way down, and she's exhaling through that full range of motion. Just do one more. Yeah. So really you wanna give yourself that opportunity to really relax your stomach. That's gonna help with any kind of tension and gripping tendencies you might have. So many of us are stuck in a pattern of being sucked in all the time, gripping our pelvic floor. If you stand with your butt tucked under, kind of like we call it grippy glutes, then we know that your pelvic floor is probably doing the same thing too. And the pelvic floor works like any other muscle. It has to lengthen and it has to shorten, and it has to do that in coordination with breath and have it relate to the movement that you're trying to do. Another breath strategy that we can kind of work on and see again what feels better for the pelvic floor is to inhale on the way down and then exhale coming up. So why we like doing that is that exhale can solicit an automatic response of the pelvic floor, an automatic contraction. So on the inhale, it relaxes and expands, and on the exhale, when it contracts, it gives you that little bit of support from the bottom up, and that's what we're looking for. Now, a lot of athletes, they're already high and tight, and we don't necessarily need to cue pelvic floor every single time, but I want you to be aware of what your stomach does. I feel like that's a really easy cue for women, myself included, of course, to be aware of. I know what my stomach is doing. I know if I'm sucking it in, and I know what I'm letting it out, so I can just kind of relax and let go of some of that tension so that my abs are able to be able to be relaxed here. Relaxes my pelvic floor. Okay, I can feel let go. I can feel it let go. And then I'm inhaling down on that and then exhaling on the way up. So I'm giving my pelvic floor, my TA, my rectus, I'm giving them the opportunity to respond really well to that lengthening that they had with the inhale.
And I think if you have questions on that breath, because if you're new to kind of breathing, like even focusing on your breath and exercise, you might be like, this is all kinds of overwhelming. So a really great strategy to just kind of help keep it simple is inhale on the easy part of an exercise, exhale on the hard part. So inhale as you lower into a push-up, exhale as you press out of it. So just think about, where is it hard? Exhale through there, and you can always just exhale through the full range of motion.
Right. And so this isn't some crazy tactic. Like, there's so many different ways to breathe, but what we have seen, especially with working with athletes, is what is considered a Valsalva has been applied to movements that don't require a Valsalva. You don't need a breath hold for everything, but it's an ingrained habit. And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing excess pressure. I sometimes see pregnant athletes and they set up for their squat and they're here and they do and then they sit down and they squat, or they get ready for their deadlift. Like, we don't need to generate that much pressure and that much force on an already stressed system from the baby pushing from the inside out. You do not need that setup, and you are not lifting weight that demands that kind of strategy to lift it. Let's save that for later when you're ready for that, but that's not right now. And that's just something that I think we really have to ingrain in people, because it's a habit. And so it's not just for a heavy squat or heavy deadlift. I'm seeing that when they start doing walking lunges and they're pressuring out or maybe down, depending on what they do, with every single thing that they're doing. So again, this isn't about having perfect form. It's not about just, we'll breathe here and do this here. It's really just bringing awareness to what you do and knowing that when in doubt, just try to let it go. Exhale through your movements. You don't have to overcook your system. I know a lot of times people will say, well, just do your Kegels and do 100 a day or do 50 a day.
Every stoplight. That's what my midwife told me.
Yeah, we're not saying that. We are not saying that at all, because again, you guys, that's not something that you need. And that's not something for us to determine what you need. But we do want to bring some awareness to your pelvic floor. And I want you to feel what it feels like to let everything just go down there. And you can do that really kind of easily by letting your belly just relax. Just let it go. And then you can feel that kind of just relaxation, that setting down, an expansion, kind of breathing into your lower abdomen also helps. And then exhale, okay, slight recoil. Now this Kegel isn't an all or nothing. It's not all this contraction and force. It's really subtle. It's just a light, kind of kick on, maybe a 2 out of 10 kind of contraction, if we're really trying to think about how much do I need to engage my pelvic floor or not. Less is more when it comes to this.
If you notice your glutes are squeezing really tight when you are trying to perform that breath, then take it down a notch. You're trying a little bit too hard, and just take it down to, like Bree said, that 2 out of a 10 in terms of how hard you're making it.
Right. And even there's different parts of your pelvic floor to be mindful of. And it might be really easy to glute dominant. So you're just kind of squeezing and tucking under your butt every time you do a Kegel. And so what we want to do is shift your focus to other areas of your pelvic floor to engage more towards the front. You can then be gut lifting towards the front of your pelvic floor, and you might feel a slightly different engagement. Now, again, this isn't something to be neurotic about. It is something to be aware of, because you are a woman. There's a baby that's going to come out of your body one way or the other. We want you to have a little bit more education about your vagina and about how your body is changing during this chapter, because you know what? No one is giving this information in a really digestible, relatable way. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and you know what? You're going to notice that you are still holding your breath from time to time. I mean, I've been practicing this stuff through several years, and I still catch myself holding my breath all the time, but you have that awareness now. So I catch it, I notice it, I bring the breathing back, especially during my pregnancy, and then again, maybe 10 minutes later, you might be noticing you're holding your breath again. You do not need to be perfect with this. Nobody is, but just have that awareness, and it'll go a long ways. And really, even in your pregnancy, getting in to see a pelvic floor physical therapist can be huge. They can help you with that contraction, that all-around contraction that Bree talked about earlier. They can help you dial that strategy in and just get you prepared for birth and for postpartum.
Right. And Heather and I, one of the things I love about us coming together is she's had 3 vaginal births and I've had 2 C-sections. We understand that there's so much of pregnancy and birth and of our changing body that we just don't have control of. But what we do have control of is our knowledge, how we approach our pregnancy, the education that we have, and our overall mindset and approach to just understanding our body's going to change and there's things that we can't always control.